Brian, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining today. As a way to start off, I wanted to hear a little bit more about your story. So, do you mind just sharing with us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Dustin. I really appreciate the opportunity to spend a couple minutes with you. Love talking about this stuff. My story, it really was a journey my whole life in pursuit of finding my inner excellence. First internal, then external. And I started out, I was blessed. Um, some of it was actually by deed, is I wanted to go to college. My parents didn't have any money to send me, so my mom encouraged me to get a basketball scholarship or an academic scholarship, and I did both. Um, but what really set my path, I guess, was opening ceremony my freshman year. We had a guest speaker. It was a guy named W. Clement Stone, and he had wrote a book, very successful, popular book with Napoleon Hill called Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And he gave everybody in the freshman class that book. And I read it, and it just set me on a path of, I guess, personal development that never stopped. So um, I've spent over 4 decades in sales, leadership, and performance. Mostly in the construction world. The last 15 years has been in the mechanical space, working with companies from startups to Fortune 500s, and really helping people become elite performers. My last, before I went out on my own, um, I worked as a director of sales for one of the largest mechanical contractors in the nation and took a small um, building services group that had a 87% turnover rate and helped drive a 20x um, growth and solve that talent problem down to a 5%. So um, it's the end of last year, 2024, beginning of 2025, I went out on my own under the company name NoLIMIT Performance, and essentially working with companies mostly in the construction world to help the organization improve their results as well as individuals. So we do consulting, a lot of customer specific training, and executive and leadership coaching.
It's awesome. I'm gonna have to pick up that book. It sounds like that was a life-changing moment. It's funny how you got 4 decades of all the ups and downs, and that was one moment that really changed the trajectory. And I'm a big fan of the inner game being probably more important than the outer game. So that makes a ton of sense. And 87% turnover to 5% roughly. That's a big turnaround. So props to you on that one. Now, I guess with what you've seen the last few years with that, and then now your new company that you're doing consulting, what's working right now in sales that maybe has changed the last few years? Because I feel like a lot has changed. So is there anything specifically that's working now compared to what you saw in the past?
Yeah, originally, it was all about teaching tactics. And I think that I've really moved from that, um, because I was seeing that talent really wasn't the problem. It was mindset, clarity, alignment, and helping people build internal systems that will drive success, right? So focusing on identity, discipline, emotional intelligence has been a big focal point. Something that actually will sustain performance under pressure. That's where you see, whether you're an athlete or you're a sales rep, it's very similar, right? You see the character when they're under pressure. And so that's kind of been the big thing, is really now working on clarity over charisma. A lot of times people hired people because they thought, oh, wow, this is a really charismatic sales rep, right? And buyers are more informed, more cautious. They're way more selective now. So reps that are winning today are the ones that one win the inner game first, and then take a consultative approach. They ask better questions, they slow down the process, and they create real impactful trust early on. So back in the old days, it was how fast could you close a deal, right? And now it's more about authentic, consultative confidence that beats a polished script every time.
Said a couple things there. First off, totally agree on the likability part. Or when you think of sales reps in the past, whether it's right or wrong, you think of the life of the party, the person that knows everybody, everybody loves him or her, and they're very likable. That's not a bad thing. That can be good, right? Because it's good to be likable. That might get you meetings, but in today's world, it's not necessarily going to close you deals anymore. I totally agree on that. And then crawl before you walk, walk before you run before you sprint. It's very cliche, but one of the biggest things I see as well is skipping steps, right? Everybody has pressure. They need to hit their Q4 quota, whatever the deal, and then they'll skip steps because it seems like you're going to get to the end goal faster, but it actually makes you not get anything versus if you would have started smaller, then you can keep building over the long haul. But it's hard to have that long-term mentality. So that's some great stuff there. And then with the mindset specifically, I think I see you post about like John Wooden and some other folks. Like, is there any framework that you're a big fan of, or maybe you have your own framework with like the mindset part?
Yeah, so I've developed it over time. I pursued, I guess you would call it um, performance psychology. It led me down the road to actually get a PhD in it. And it's really what I liked about it was is so much of sport applies to um, the business world, especially from the internal side of things. But one of the big things that I'm doing right now is that I've done over the last few years, which has really moved the needle, is everybody's got a sales process. Whether it's Sandler, Spin, whatever they developed. I mean, I was super fortunate that I worked with Tony Robbins back in early in my career in my 20s. And back then, he actually had a sales process that he taught backed by neurolinguistic programming, which really transformed my career. But we could talk more about that. But anyway, what I'm doing now is, which I think is really moving the needle, is teaching people the emotional intelligence side. And so when they meet a prospect, they can determine very quickly what kind of personality type is this person? And then how do I flex my communication to resonate with them? Right. So whether I need to go into more details or do I need to keep it, 10,000 foot level and move quickly to get this person to feel like, hey, this guy gets me. So that's a big change, from the early days. And it really doesn't matter what sales process you use. This piece seems to be a needle mover more than anything else when I talk follow up with reps that I've taught it to.
I agree. I think there's enough sales processes out there. There needs to be more what you're doing because it's so much more important in my opinion. I mean, it's they're equally important, but I think it's a little bit more weighted on that side. Good stuff. Now when you're looking at reps specifically outside of the mindset side and the inner game, is there anything else that you're seeing reps right now that makes them stand out? Is it maybe curiosity or some other terms that you're seeing? I mean, what's standing out with those like best reps you're around?
So it really falls back on, do they have a very clear vision of their big reasons why they're doing what they're doing, right? And so this is something that I learned from Tony Robbins back early in my career, that if you've got big enough reasons why, you'll figure out the how. So because of the fact that they're very clear on what their big reasons why are, and it's directly connected to their success in their career of tying in, what are their banner goals for their year and how their success in their career is going to drive, making those happen. And so that way, then they're not just grinding through trying to do it on all willpower, right? And the other part of it is the better that they learn emotional intelligence, which I know is thrown around a lot today, but when they truly can learn it, they learn how to regulate themselves. They don't get emotionally hijacked by rejection, price objections, slow sales cycles, etc. And they stay way more consistent, composed, and curious. You're right. So that's something I throw out a lot. Be a little more curious, right? And have it has to come from an authentic place. Skills matter, but emotional intelligence is really the separator for the best reps that are out there.
Well said. I completely agree, and it's uh it's interesting to talk through that. On another note, this is what I've seen lately. It probably depends on the industry, but I think sometimes people don't understand what a sales leader or a rep has to go through, right? With all the stuff you're talking about. It's an emotional roller coaster. There's so many ups and downs. You know when you close the deal, you're the hero, but then if nothing happens for a couple months, you're the scapegoat pretty quickly. Do you think like sales leaders and reps are underappreciated or misunderstood in today's world? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I work with a lot of leaders and vice president, president level, and most of those people that are involved in running companies come from the operations side of things. Very few come from the sales side. And so it's not their fault. They just don't really understand it. And so I think that's part of the problem, right? When you can get a leader that has some sales experience, right, and understands it, I think now you've created somebody that's much more well-rounded. Because the reality is, in virtually every business, if somebody's not selling some profitable work, nobody else is going to work. That's the reality. So you decide what should be the priority. Very few companies look at sales. The ones that are smart, they call themselves a sales organization that happens to do, say, mechanical contracting, right? They're the ones that get it, and they're the ones that really grow at geometric rates.
Totally agree. It's when I'm meeting with people and I know they have a sales background, the conversation just tends to flow better for whatever reason that you're talking about, and you get it. And right, you have to. I think sales does teach you so many other things in life too about how to overcome hurdles and obstacles, how to communicate the right way, how to follow up tactfully and be empathetic to other people. I mean, there's so many things that sales is great at, but I think it gets misunderstood sometimes from leadership and those that are not in it. Wrapping up here, a couple more questions for you, man. The Going back, right? You've had an awesome career, done a lot of great things. If you could go back and maybe change anything or give advice to some folks that are maybe newer to sales, is there any one or two things that you would mention to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really would evolve in early in my career, it was all about proving myself, right? I wanted to be the best, whether it was at sports. Then when I got into the business world, right? So stop proving and start serving, right? Early on, I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, "Hey, if you help somebody else get everything they want, you'll never have to worry about what you get." So that would be the big one. Start serving early on, have a servant mindset. Um, I thought early on sales was about, pressing, putting the numbers up, right? Scoreboard. It's not. It's about learning to be 100% present in every conversation, asking better questions, really having a servant's mindset and then let the process work.
That's a great takeaway. The servant mindset. I don't hear that as much, and it's so true because usually things work out well if you're doing that and have the giving mentality. Good
You know,
stuff, Brian. Well, as we close out here, I know you do have a somewhat of a newer business, although you've been an entrepreneur in the past as well. Is there anything specifically with your current group that helps you guys stand out against other consultants or sales trainers out there?
yeah, the big thing is that we've actually done it in the business world. There's a lot of consultants and trainers that have never actually done it. And so the other thing is that we look at what are the core drivers of human behavior and the results, right? And whether it's in life or it's in business or in sport, it's really more about your patterns and recognizing what patterns work in your life, what's not working, changing the blocks. Um, People don't really need more motivation. They need to recognize and change the patterns that are either serving them or not serving them in their life. And that's a big difference. We talk about we talk about how to control your emotional state, and the state creates your behavior, and that's going to create your results. So we we have a backbone. I'm a master practitioner with Tony Robbins in neurolinguistic programming, and we we sprinkle in everything that actually has worked. So it's kind of like a Bruce Lee philosophy, right? Studied a bunch of different things over life and took what's really worked and got a chance to apply it in the business world. And now, we're doing that. So anybody that I bring on my team has had high levels of success in um, their corner of the world and actually has done it. So our philosophy is that if you can change your patterns, you change your state, you're going to change your behavior, and change your behavior, you're going to change your life, whether it's personally or professionally. And so that's the performance psychology side of things that we bring to the table that I don't think very few others really have.
Love that. And so true. There's a lot of noise out there on social media and other avenues, and you definitely want to check the credentials and see what they've done because you're going to respect the people that have been there, done that. They've made the mistakes. They've gotten beat up. They've came through and overcame that. I have way more connection and respect for that type of consultant and trainer. So that's awesome. Well, hey, thanks again, Brian. Go check out No Limit Performance, and we will see you soon. Thanks, bud.
You're welcome.